Welcome back into another episode of George in the Jungle, presented as always by Remington Tavern. Coming at you live from the Cincy Light Studios. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. You can check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy. That's REMITAV Cincy with a Y, or follow them on Facebook. While you're there, you can grab yourself an ice cold Cincy Light on tap, in a can, however you want it. Support the people who support us, and get yourself an adult beverage while you're at it. But with that, George, we are underway, and it's just more of the same, unfortunately. It's been a roughly month or so at this point for people like you, people like me, who are fans of all of the teams that this city has to offer, outside of the one that is in Norwood, which, again, technically outside of Cincinnati. But how are you?
It feels like everything's gone wrong. I mean, nothing's on the rails. I'm not good. I felt like crap. I've had this crud that's been going around for about a week. And, you got time to lay around and watch sports. And all I did is watch teams lose this past week.
It feels like that's about all we've done for about the last
I'm very
last
used
month.
to this, by the way. I'm very used to this.
Well, I have a tweet here that I want to read you, considering what we do here, where we talk about Cincinnati sports. And it comes from a user at Yugs, YUGGS 513. He's just a dude who supports these same teams that we seem to support, George. And he said in this tweet, here's what I got. 11:22, UC football loses to BYU. 11:23, Bengals lose to Patriots. 11:26, UC basketball loses to EMU. 11:27, Bengals beat Ravens. Yay. 11:29, UC football loses to TCU. 12:1, UC basketball struggles mightily against Tarleton State, shows Jizzle James on the big screen. 12:5, UC loses to Dickheads. 12:7, Bengals lose heartbreaker to Bills. 12-9, Schwarber signs with Philly. 12-9, report comes out that Reds only wanted to sign Schwarber for ticket sales. 12-10, report comes out that they only had $125 million for Schwarber and no one else. 12-10, Nick Kroll says Blake Dunn is making strides and has a chance to be the Reds center fielder. 12-10, Burrow says he is no longer having fun. 12-13, Bearcats get their doors blown off by Georgia. 12-14, Bengals get their doors blown off by Ravens, and they didn't remove snow from the seats. 12-15, Sorsby announced he is transferring. 12-16, Daner Jr. releases an article saying Tobin/Taylor/Golden will all be back. Somewhere in there, he left out that FC Cincinnati got their doors blown off by Messi and Inter Miami.
That's quite a list right there. It's that's a lot for fans to take.
That's not even a month. We're still a week shy of a month.
That's a lot for fans to take in 1 month.
There was one good thing in there. The Bengals beat the Ravens.
Right.
Outside, and that happened on Thanksgiving.
And it has been just one kick to the groin after another.
When all of these things are going about as bad as they can, there's really been nothing good for the Reds, for the Bengals, for FC Cincinnati, for Bearcats football, for Bearcats basketball. Where do you turn? What are you supposed to do as a fan to try and even at this point, especially when you find out that the Bengals are bringing back, from what Daner's saying, and he's got a pretty good inside scoop, a pretty good inside track, if anybody.
Right.
If they're bringing back Zach Taylor and Al Golden and Duke Tobin, if the Reds are not signing Kyle Schwarber because they didn't offer enough money, maybe they did offer enough money, maybe he just decided to sign with Philly. Who knows? Because we've seen conflicting reports coming out for that. But since he's done, they are not allocating any of that money that they had allocated for Kyle Schwarber. They're just gonna just throw in the towel, I guess. They're not putting that money towards anybody else. Because nobody else who hits home runs would bring in fans putting a winning product out there or anything.
Yeah, on that point, they don't care where the guy's from, okay? If he makes them win, if he helps them win, people are coming to the games. It's not going to be just because it's a guy from Middletown helping them win.
Correct. And, I saw on that point, I saw the Reds had the Burning Hot Stove or call-in show where Tommy Thrall had one caller call in who asked why the Reds weren't trying to sign Pete Alonso, and he said it's not a fit. And then they took no more calls the rest of the show, which it's a call-in show. I don't know why we're doing that. And poor Tommy Thrall's stuck carrying water for a Reds team who doesn't want to sign anybody because it's not a fit for a guy who hits home runs anyway. But you have the Bearcats basketball team where I don't feel good. I don't know. I said this last night. I don't know that they get more than 3 wins, and I'm not even sure where those 3 wins come from. I guess you just fall into 3 wins because somebody's having a terrible night, worse than these Bearcats have looked. And football, you have some pretty big pieces gone from your recruiting team, and you have the portal coming up. You've lost Brendan Sorsby, seemingly. We don't know where he's going to end up, but all signs currently point to Texas Tech. Right. And you just don't have the money to keep talent like a Brendan Sorsby. So where am I supposed to feel good about any of my sports teams right now, George?
You don't. I drive around and think about this a lot too, and I'll find myself going, "What am I doing? Why am I beating my head against the wall?" But who else am I going to follow? Who am I all of a sudden going to become a Browns fan or a Bears fan or a Colts?
Well, there's no solace in those first 2 teams anyway that you mentioned. The Colts are at least on an upswing, and they've been to a Super Bowl here.
This is sad because this is not a reason to do it, but it's what I've always done. It's all I've known. It's what I do, and all I can tell myself is that it's never as bad as you really think it is. It's never that bad. I'm having a hard time believing that with what I'm seeing because it feels that bad. It looks that bad. But there is still some enjoyment out of it, and that is it gives me something to bitch about. And by God, I like to bitch, and I got plenty to bitch about in this town, right?
I just don't understand how it's possible for all of these organizations, and it's even lumping the Bearcats in as professional organizations at this point, because that's kind of how they have to run things at this point.
Yeah.
How are all of them so bad at the same time?
And I was trying to think, like back in the 90s when the Bengals were really bad, but the Reds weren't really this bad. And obviously the Bearcats weren't this bad, especially on the basketball court.
Right.
So there was always something to kind of like hang your hat on, say, okay, well, at least football season's here, or at least basketball season's here, or baseball season's here. There's no relief right now around here. There's no relief. So I don't know how this is all going to play out for me. Am I going to continue to beat my head against the wall? Probably. I've done it enough with the different teams over the years, but all at the same time, woo! I mean, there is just no. I mean, seriously, you watch the UC basketball game on Saturday, and then you watch the Bengals on Sunday, and it's like, what am I doing? I'm just building more frustration, and it's tough. It's tough to keep your fandom, but I keep telling myself that when something does turn and something does go well, it's going to be that much sweeter. And so I'm just clinging on to that right now. I know that's not a lot, but I still think no matter how bad some of these organizations are run, eventually something good happens. Can I say that given the current status with the two main professional teams in town? I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure they're run the right way where you can even luck in to success. I mean, I think, quite honestly, they were obviously hell bent on Schwarber. That was a serious negotiation. He met with the team at the stadium. He was down there one day, several hours from what I'm told. Was genuinely interested and really liked the thought of playing for the Reds. But with all that going your way, and you go up to 125 million on this contract, why not just go all in and get it done? And then if you don't, you're not going to go after anybody. It's like 125 million over here or nothing. We just kind of status quo it. So
even if the entire George, even if the entire town of Middletown came to every game, that's not making up the difference between if you bring in a ringer like Pete Alonso or insert any big bopper here. Like,
you know what? If I felt like I had 120, and I know they were doing a per year thing, all this, and I would have just said, you know what? Here's the 125 grand. We'll make it 4 years. We're giving you more. Just come here. But that's what they're going to have to do to get over this hump. They're going to have to do a bold move. They're going to have to make some kind of bold splash in free agency. They did try to do that a few years ago, and it blew up in their face kind of with Moustakas and Castellanos. And I think they brought in another one that offseason too. I forget who the other big free agent signing was, but they made some moves that offseason.
Martinez?
What's that?
Was it Nick Martinez?
Could have been, but I don't know if that was him yet.
It was the pitcher we traded to the Brewers. I can't remember his name either.
Not Miley. Who was it?
It was the pitcher we traded away to the Brewers. The guy who was here less than an entire season, and they traded him away.
They had Bauer hanging around back then too, and but some of that blew up in their face. But that's baseball. You're going to hit on some, you're going to miss on some, and if you don't take a swing, you're not going to hit the ball. And they took a bit of a swing on Schwarber, but you got to just say, look, we got to go over the top and get this thing going in another direction. And it was a missed opportunity. I think they could have done that. I think they should have figured out a way to make that happen.
I think you need to ask, what's it going to take?
And now to just kind of be like, okay, we took our shot. Now we're just content. Maybe we'll trade for Brandon Lowe or something like that. That's not quite the splash they need. They need a little more than that.
I agree. Then you have the Bengals, who, they lose this game here on Sunday. Their playoffs are done. Joe Burrow looks mid at best. He looked bad. I think that you could make.
Didn't have his best game. I don't think he was as bad as what he thought he was, but he didn't have his best game. But who did in that game?
But I guess where I'm going with this, because I don't want to really quite get into the X's and O's as we do later on in the show. But when you talk about bringing back the band's back, you're bringing back all of your coaches and Duke Tobin, and for what? No one has shown they're capable at this point.
And I really felt like, because Zach was signed another year and knowing how the Bengals do these things, that he probably would be back. I was already kind of resigned to that. I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. That's how they operate. I think you go out and you get the best guy you can possibly get if you are serious about winning. And I don't know how, as much as I like Zach and like him as a person and like him as an optimist, he's had a pretty good shot here to get it done. And he did get to the Super Bowl once. But these last 3 years have been very damning, and it's not working. So you got to go fire your best shot. And if they think Zach's the best shot, okay, but I don't agree with that. I think there's other directions that they could move in.
Then you have the state of Cincinnati sports, where it feels like Satterfield was good enough to get us going in the Big 12, but it feels like you're more or less stuck with Satterfield because you're clearly going to have to make a move on Wes Miller
Right.
here by the end of this basketball season, because this thing is damn near off the rails. We have lots of signs pointing to something happening here as early as tomorrow. As far as roster goes, we'll see what that looks like. I don't know.
With
Um,
basketball or
with basketball, yes. So I don't know what's about to come with that, but I don't see how it changes anything if somebody comes back to this team or not. But regardless of any and all of that, I don't see how you're going to fix this thing. This doesn't seem like a team that's going to go 500 in
no.
Big 12 play. This doesn't seem like a team to me that's going to get to, I guess Ken Palm has them at 6. I think that's a gift if they get to 6. I'm resigned to them getting 3 or less because I think that's how atrocious this team is playing right now. I don't know what this team is doing offensively. They don't have an identity. I don't know what this team is doing defensively. They can't close out and they fall apart more or less in the second half. They're pretty good in the first half, but I can't imagine that you continue to even do that much as this thing goes more and more off the rails over the course of. You're only a third of the season in, George, and we've
Right.
got guys who aren't playing whole games at this
Right.
point.
Right.
And when the losses start to pile up, I don't know how you keep that locker room. That seems like a foregone conclusion. And then on the flip side with football, like I said, you're kind of married to Satterfield for another year because you can't afford 2 buyouts. And
Right.
again, it just seems like it all comes back to money. And
Right. It makes you sick when you think, okay, the money that was spent on these programs and to make them an attractive member for a conference looking for someone, and that's what they did. And then you get to that level and you're nowhere's near ready, is what it looks like to me, financially or anything else. I mean, um, they're just not competing the way, they said day one ready. It wasn't even close to that. And now you've got this new football facility and all the hoopla that was made over that. Well, what good is that when it's a revolving door in every program in the country right now. So, we're not the only ones going through all this upheaval with rosters. It's like a lot of teams are going through it and people are having to feel it out, figure it out. And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, they're going to have to put some guardrails up on this stuff because I think a lot of people are going to lose interest. And I said that a year ago when this stuff was happening. And and the reason I say that is because I'm afraid I'm going to start to. It's like, my God, it's not like the days where, and UC does have some young football players that you hope grow into good ones, but it doesn't feel like you ever get a chance to see anyone grow with a program anymore. They're just hopscotching all over the place. I don't know who these guys are. I didn't know.
well,
I mean, what do we got? 1 or 2 guys back from last year's basketball roster? It's absurd, and it's really making people question what they're doing when you support these programs through ticket sales and that kind of thing.
when they do become good enough, it feels like they're just leaving for insert Big Ten or SEC school here.
Yeah, it just
Because
feels like you're a feeder system.
agreed.
Right.
Um,
And that's not what fans signed up for when they were supporting all this stuff to get in, a major conference. And when people were donating to the indoor football facility and donating the early days of NIL to try to keep pace. This isn't what they bargained for. And I don't know what the end result's going to be, but I do understand, Coach Satterfield talking about this situation and saying, if we got to pay the kid $4 million to be a quarterback, we're out. And I don't blame him because,
it's crazy
let's
money.
just say whatever their total nut is, you can't spend that much on one guy. I mean,
No, not
it's kind of for lack of a better example, it's kind of the corner the Bengals painted themselves in with their 4 big contracts. It takes a lot more than 4 guys to win football games.
Getting to the chat here a little bit because this is the most active our chat's been in a while. George, is this what being a UC football fan in the 90s was like?
You know, I'm going to say this. It was worse in the 80s, probably some in the 70s, although Tony Mason had a good year or two. Yeah, back then, they were talking about ditching the program. There wasn't even a guarantee there would be UC football. I don't think we've reached that point yet. But in terms of wins and losses and not sure what's going to happen next, because I don't know. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to compete, at the national level, given the way this system's set up. There are some similarities to what it was like in the 80s and 90s.
He was comparing it to what basketball is right now. It was 90s football, UC football.
Oh, I see what basketball. Yeah, well, 90s, yeah, probably. It was a lot like this, yes. Boy, basketball got really dire in that 25 season or whatever back in the early 80s. I mean, that really was the dark ages. And they're playing at the Gardens. That was like the home floor. And it's just like, it was bad. It was worse than this. And the thing about this is there is definite hope that you go out and get that home run hire as a head coach that can get this thing turned around in pretty short order. So I'm probably a little more hopeful now than I was, say, in like 1983 or 4 when it comes to basketball. And then did the football in the 90s feel like basketball? Yeah, I mean, you woke up every day and you're shaking your head, trying to figure out what the hell's going on and what happened and why am I always so disappointed when I watch this team play. And I am just I can't believe it. I watch every basketball game thinking, okay, maybe they'll get their act. Why? I don't know. But I think they'll get their act together. And then I watch what I watched Saturday when down the stretch, the last 7.5 minutes, they were just awful, pathetic. You're lucky you didn't see it.
D-Fan asks, what happened to the aggressive defense that we thought Coach Scott Satterfield was going to bring when he was at Louisville? He lost his defensive coordinator. His defensive coordinator was here for 1 season. Yep. They didn't really get an opportunity to really put a defense in particular together before he was out the door and gone to, where did he go? Ole Miss, I believe.
I believe that's right, yes.
So we never really got to see his defensive coordinator that he had at Louisville before we brought in Tyson Veit. So a little bit different.
It is, and they did have. I mean, I remember watching that darn Fenway Bowl, and they had some dudes, man. Louisville did, and they weren't even playing everybody. That was a game where a lot of guys sat out and all that business. But I know this. Their backups were a hell of a lot better than ours in that game.
Yeah. And then the other stuff's just kind of some comments. I don't know. I wanted to read that off. I guess kind of it put it in perspective for me, reading that tweet and just seeing how depressing the last month has been as a sports fan. There's been really nothing to hang your hat on. There's been nothing to be excited about. It's hard to even be excited about the future.
Right.
The only future that you really know of that's coming is football. The portal starts here in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks or so. So we'll see what the team is able to put together. I'm a little nervous because you have, again, new recruiting staff in place. Obviously the GM, Zach Grant, he's back. But that's not the guy who was heaviest focused in the portal. So we'll see what we're able to do. They brought in a guy from Western Kentucky, and they've been able to put some teams together, but that's a little bit different at Western Kentucky than Cincinnati is. But Chad brought up a point last night when talking about when you fire a coach here at Cincinnati right now, unless you plan on bringing in a guy who is comparable to a Tommy Tuberville, where it's a guy who has kind of been around the block and is on his sunset tour, you really aren't going to be able to find much that is not you're not going to be able to go to another Power 4 team and pluck away a guy.
Right.
So you're more or less looking at your mid majors in basketball or lower, or you're looking at for football maybe an assistant, maybe a DC, maybe an OC for a power four, maybe,
Right.
um,
Depending
or
on the
a head
guy.
or a head coach at a much lesser, not a P4 school. Um, when you're talking about recruiting, I think you're probably looking at doing much of the same. You're not going to be plucking guys from recruiting staffs at Power Four programs at Cincinnati the way things are right now. That's not to say that you can't get there. I
Right.
just don't think you're there right now.
No, a lot of this is you got to get coaches that know how to coach and coach the games and do the X's and O's now, because it used to be important to have the guy that was the Pied Piper that got all these recruits. But now with money dictating a lot of this, you know, I mean, it seems to me like if you've got a decent payroll, you're going to get the talent. It's not like you have to have some magical recruiting potion. You just have to have the dollars, and you have to have the guys that know how to coach guys up and coach the X's and O's. And I think to me, that's the most important thing I would look into. It used to be, I always thought you kind of had to have a salesman at the top of the UC program, because you had to sell the fans on it. You had to sell the local high school kids, all that stuff. Now that kind of takes care of itself with your recruiting department and the dollars, and you need people who can coach. So I hope that's the route they take. I mean, if I'm wrong, tell me, but I think that's more important now than what I'm seeing as to having guys that, have all these great, recruiting bridges to cross. I don't think you have to have that anymore, because you just buy these guys.
Imagine most guys we'll use a name, Jaquan Sanks. He enters the transfer portal from Cincinnati. I'm going to guess he probably just needed a change of scenery. I can't imagine what Cincinnati was going to offer Jaquan Sanks is much different than what Jaquan Sanks is going to get on the quote unquote open market, right? So your offerings for a guy like that are probably going to be much around the same ballpark for wherever a guy like that goes.
And he may not like how he fits into what they do,
Sure, correct.
and I get that for a player. It's like, yeah, they've got me doing this, and that's not really what I think my strong suit is. So I get that part of it, and I think that can play into it. And a lot of guys are going to be looking for dudes that can coach guys up and get them to that next level. And until you prove you can do that, I mean, if there's anything a coach can do to help his own recruiting that's outside of the dollars, it's convincing these kids, I'm the guy that will get you to the NFL, or I'm the guy that will get you to the NBA. I think that's very valuable, because I think they're all looking for that too.
Yeah. It's whoever can give you the best opportunity at this point, whether that is, it's going to be different for every kid. And I guess that's what you need to find out about as early in the process as you can. Are you about playing time? It's like playing the college football video game at this point. Is
Right.
it about playing time? Is it about proximity to home? Is it about dollars? What is the most important thing to you? What's the second most important thing to you? How can we offer that to you? Well, you're all about money, and you're a kid coming in from high school. I'm sorry, we're probably on different pages.
Right.
Move on.
And I would be. That's kind of how I would be. But then again, it kind of depends on the kid too. Like, how good is he? You got to have those guys.
I guess I'm just of the mindset that it's really hard to pay a kid right now in the portal era, when you need to spend your big money on guys who are going to be offering you playing time immediately, as opposed to hoping a kid translates from high school to college early on. That's a lot of dollars in a limited basket that you have here.
And it's yes, and so it's very hard to do both. You got to figure out a way to do it, but it's very hard to have that freshman and sophomore solid class that's content and developing, and then you're paying these other guys to come in and play over them, and you're keeping those guys happy. Good luck, coaches. That's why a lot of guys don't want to do it anymore. I talked to some coaches last night about this, and and they have friends who are in the college coaching business, and they're hearing that all the time now. Guys are like, I don't want to do this.
Well, in any case, let's get back to what we normally do here on the show. I just kind of wanted to open with my state of Cincinnati address, I guess, because
it's bad. I mean, it's just really tough. It's really tough.
So we'll touch on some things here real quick. Obviously, Cincinnati is playing Navy on January 2nd. The line has moved. Oh my gosh, it's moved tremendously. With the Brendan Sorsby news, started at -6.5, favoring Cincinnati. It swung all the way to 6.5 now, favoring Navy.
We'll see. Now, those Navy guys will play in the bowl game.
Yeah,
because
they can't go anywhere. Correct.
No, they're going to be on a ship or whatever in a few months. So
you're playing football.
Another football game.
You're playing football as long as you can if you're Navy.
Exactly. I know. That's the last team you want to play in these bowl games like this. These lesser bowl games that aren't the college football playoffs. You don't want to play an academy. Those guys aren't going anywhere.
No.
Such a bad draw.
But obviously the news of Sorsby gone. We'll see who else. We've seen guys trickling into the portal for about the last 2 weeks or so now. I'm sure that
and I hate to see him go. And I think obviously he's good. He's very good. But I'm seeing this business now that he's the number one guy in the portal. Did I read that right?
Yep.
I'm sorry. I think he's good. I think he can be really good. I hope he gets a good NFL grade and he gets drafted in the first round right out of UC. That would be the best case for Cincinnati is for that to happen. And I hope that does happen. But I don't know if I'm there. I'm not sure I see that.
We haven't also seen, I imagine there's probably more dominoes to fall as far as the portal goes. But as things stand right now, he's got the highest grade out of anybody. I'm with you. I think I would love to see him go in the first round. Kind of one of those, like when Lamar got drafted by Baltimore late in the first round because he wanted that fifth-year option availability for a quarterback. And maybe somebody trades into a 31st, 32nd pick to try and grab Brendan Sorsby. That would be best case scenario for any and all parties involved.
Right.
The things that make me nervous, of course, are Texas Tech almost taking a victory lap with the recruiting GM at Texas Tech taking a victory or reposting the letter that Sorsby wrote to the Bearcats fans and thank yous to coaches and what have you. Also, Sorsby's girlfriend transfers from Cincinnati as a volleyball player to Texas Tech. She posted her pictures today, has already deleted the post for reasons I don't know. But who knows? Who knows what's going on? The portal is insane.
It is insane. I had a guy tell me last night, and he has coaching friends in the business, all this. I guess last year when that Texas Tech alum, former player who's a wildcatter and struck oil and all that, he told him, he went to him and said last year, and he's doing it again this year, identify your most dominant positions of need, and whoever the top guy is in the portal you want, I'll pay for it. I don't care what the price is. If he's the guy you want, we'll get him. And that's how you get good overnight.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. I'm curious to see who plays, who's looking like a piece that you can keep around next year or develop next year, because there's plenty of question marks up and down this roster. And I guess what better time to find out than against the triple option in a bowl game that I'm not sure.
Well, there's going to probably be a lot of young kids that are going to have to be making tackles in this game. So we'll see how it goes.
I mean, almost your entire secondary has entered the portal, like starting secondary at this point. You also have your defensive backs coach leaving. So maybe it's good. Maybe it's good that because we didn't have a good secondary.
No, no.
I don't know how it could get worse, truthfully, unless you're getting just burned over the top. But if you're
Yeah,
playing
be
a
careful
prevent
what you
defense,
wish for.
well, if you're
It would be hard to imagine it being worse than what we saw, but
if you're playing a prevent defense and every pass that gets thrown is either a catch or is a pass interference, you don't turn the ball around, you know it's not going to be an interception. I don't know how it could be much worse than that.
yeah, well, I don't know how it can be much worse when you line up almost every play 8 yards off the line of scrimmage either,
Right.
especially when it's like 3rd and 5. I mean, I just, someone please help me with this.
3rd and 3.
Right. I know.
So we'll see. We'll switch gears here again because we took a lot of time on that.
Is there something positive? You got something positive?
Well, the Bearcats play Alabama State tomorrow in a game that they are favored 21.5. They did not look great against Georgia. Again, you had your first 12 minutes that looked okay. Looked
Yeah,
like
they were up 11 with 7.5 minutes to go in the first half, and then it's tied at halftime.
And then you piss down your leg, and I just don't know how you right this ship at this point when you have no real wins to hang your hat on. 10 games into the season, you have lost games that you should not have lost. You have been close in games that you should not have been close in. I'm not convinced they beat Alabama State tomorrow. Certainly, I'm not betting on 21.5. You're out of your mind.
I wouldn't either. And I'm going to be interested to see how many people go to this game. I'm going to go. I know people are saying, "Oh, stay home, boy." I'm going to go because I want to see what this looks like. I want to see what I want to feel it. I want to feel the angst in that arena. I want to see what happens. If the other guy shows up and plays, I want to see what kind of reaction he gets from the crowd. I just want to take all this in tomorrow night and see exactly if it's as bad as what I think it could be. Because people are angry.
Rightfully so.
Right.
Even if you talk about, we talked about money quite a bit this podcast already, but we know that there was plenty of money dumped in. I don't have a dollar amount that I know of, but there was plenty of money dumped into this roster.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been plenty of money dumped into Wes Miller, additions to his staff. There's no reason for this program to look as bad as they have. It's somehow gotten worse year over year.
As I said last week, they started up here with that exhibition against Michigan, and it's just been that's as good as they've looked this year.
I guess I just don't understand how you look worse every year while you continue to dump more and more money on the roster and on the staff. On paper, this should be the best roster that he has had, George.
Right. No, it certainly should be. Yes. And you look at the game in Georgia and they're up 4 fairly early in the second half. They're up 4 points. And then Miller gets the foul. Then he mouths off and gets the technical foul. Then there's a couple of turnovers and a missed shot. And all of a sudden you're down and it's slipping away from you. And it just seems like there's never the basketball IQ. I thought this team, when they put it together and I saw what they were getting out of the portal, they had some basketball IQ guys. After watching them in this non-conference portion of the schedule, I'm not sure if there's any basketball IQ.
Do you think the team feels the same way that we feel as fans, where once the lead has slipped away, even a small margin, that there's no way they're coming back? Because I have no confidence when they lose a lead that they're ever getting it again.
Aaron, they play that way. It's like this self-fulfilling prophecy of theirs where they lose the lead and it's over. And look, we talked about the record last week too with 5 minutes ago when trailing. That's not an accident. Good teams and good coaches and good players find ways to win games in the last 5 minutes. And this team, and you can go back to that Indiana State game in the NIT, finds way to lose games in the last 5 minutes. And I know the refs weren't kind that night, but damn it, you got to find a way to win. And they never do.
This team stinks out loud.
Yeah, I see the McKinley comment. I guess he's been hurt a little bit. His knee has been bothering. I heard Wes say that, and I don't want to say I hope that's the case because he does seem to have basketball. I like what I've seen out of him, and I liked a lot out of what I saw out of him earlier in the season, but been a little wonky lately, but I guess because of that knee.
Well, let's switch gears again. Just trying to get through everything we need to get through. The Bengals.
We can shut it down right now if you want. I've been brooding over this for a long time.
This used to be my favorite show to do, George, and it's not a knock on you. I just hate talking about these teams right now. It's awful. The Cincinnati Bengals, their season is over. They will not be going to the playoffs. They now stand at 4-10 and it's crazy to even say 4-10 is what put them out of the playoffs. But they lose 24-0 to the Ravens in a game that I wasn't able to watch any of as I was driving home from Indianapolis through the snow. Joe Burrow, 25 of 39 for 225, 2 picks, no touchdown. When was the last time he threw no touchdowns in a game? Obviously, you don't have T. Higgins because the Bengals kept running him out there against the Bills without a guardian cap in a game that he came off of a concussion. Chase did have 10 catches for 132 yards. Obviously a good day. No touchdowns, though. The run game, I guess, kind of got going. 29 carries, 100 yards. Nothing great there. But
did you see the weird stat in that game? Okay, the Bengals get shut out, but did you see how much they possessed the ball?
No.
39 minutes and 19 seconds. They think. So they've gone back 40-some years, and that's the most time of possession for a team that has been shut out in the NFL in the past 40-some years. And I don't know if somebody's still going back and looking to see if they can find those stats, but that is just a bizarre stat.
You also had 5 trips where you were inside the 35 and came away with no points.
None.
5 times inside the 35. I would venture to guess that, especially in the modern era where kickers can seemingly make kicks from 50 plus regularly. I don't know how many times you've seen, and granted, it was freezing. It was a top 5 most cold game played in Cincinnati ever. So it was very cold. It's not to, just say that why did this happen? It wasn't a regular game, if you will. But your back was against the wall. You had to find a way to win this game if you wanted a chance. And they did not give them that. They did not give themselves that. When you come up with no points in an entire a shutout in the NFL is really hard to do at this point. And you to your point, you possessed the ball for almost 40 minutes, 2/3 of the damn game, and you had 5 trips inside the 35 with no point. That's crazy.
That is crazy. That's hard to do, especially when your quarterback is Joe Burrow.
It's Joe Burrow.
It's very hard to do. And Zach took some of that heat after the game, saying that's on me. I'm the play caller. And obviously he does have to do better. You can't have these things happen like this. And that, I'll tell you, Aaron, I don't say like guys quit, give up. It's hard for me to buy into the not ready to play thing. But that was just a weird bunch out there with the cold. It did feel like they had beaten Baltimore and beat them handily just a couple weeks before. And Baltimore was laying for this game like nobody's business. Why? I guess because they felt like they were embarrassed at home. I never try to read too much into that kind of crap. But boy, it sure seemed like that Baltimore just came out and just wanted to smack them right between the eyes any way they could, and they did. I mean, Lamar Jackson only threw the ball 12 times in this game.
He did.
12 times. The entire game. And then Derrick Henry ran it like 11.
Yeah.
but they mixed things up and they did just enough things to, you know, they didn't have long drives. Um, and hence, the time of possession thing. It was a weird game. And it's just one of those games where Baltimore was out to get them and they got them.
They ran 36 plays, George. Baltimore, 36
What made the
plays.
Bengals run? 70?
Well, I guess what I'm getting at, they ran what, 39-29, so 68. They scored almost as many points as plays.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. But the defensive coordinator's coming back.
Yeah, well, when
I'm not going to blame it all on him. I mean, they've whiffed so badly in the draft on these defensive players, and then they're relying on too many young guys too. I mean, it's just that's how they built their team. They put money in offense. They brought in some linemen, and then they want to draft all these guys.
Clean house. Then you have to clean house. You're clearly doing something wrong, and it starts at the top with your roster management.
Right.
Because on defense, you're right. You're relying entirely on too many young guys, and you cut all the guys or traded all the guys who were veterans in the middle of your defense. Pratt, Logan Wilson. What are you doing?
I mean, Awuzie was playing in the game for Baltimore on Sunday. He used to be here.
I mean,
I know. And they do need help. They need, it's obvious that's the dumbest thing I think I've ever said, but they need help in that personnel department.
Bring back Marvin Lewis then.
I'm not saying it's all Duke Tobin's fault, but they need help in there.
Well, we had our best drafts, arguably, because you didn't just hit on a top 10 pick when you had a Joe Burrow, when you had a Jamar Chase, a top 5 pick. You should hit on top 5 picks.
Correct.
If you are whiffing on a top 5 pick, I don't care how many scouts you have, or if you have no scouts, you should not be missing on a consensus top 5 pick.
No, the second round on's where you got to make it.
Sure. So bring back a guy who used to do that and used to draft well. What's Marvin Lewis doing? It cannot be hard right now to get him out of broadcasting and put him in your front office. He clearly enjoyed Cincinnati enough to be here for what felt like 3 decades.
I would love to know what he would think about that, because I think he would be good at that.
I saw people speculating that he was in town a couple weeks ago with a secret meeting with Mike Brown.
I think he would be good at that. And I think if they would let him do the things he thinks they should do. And the first few years he was here, they started trending that way. And then for whatever reason, it just kind of got shut down.
Well, you need to put people who are not yes men in the fucking draft room.
Right.
Someone needs to pound the table and say no.
Yes.
Anyway.
But the man that sits at the table has the ultimate say. And that's not changing.
We'll switch gears one last time. I don't really have any news for the Reds, but I guess we kind of we hit on it a little bit. The Reds are in a weird place. Obviously, baseball is trending in a place where the Dodgers just paid more for a closer than the Reds have ever paid for any free agent ever. And that's not great. The Dodgers already had the highest payroll anywhere in the league, and they continue to do so. This baseball is a mess, and I don't blame the Dodgers for continuing to do what they're doing, because it's within the rules and they're stacking championships. But I don't know. You have to make a change here, because you have teams like the Reds who, granted, you have 20 owners in this ownership group, and they've all got they would all be, they're obviously making money as owners. They're not just waiting for the end game when they finally do sell to get their money. And they all don't want to spend any of the money that they're making from this organization, clearly, as you see them kind of go in on Kyle Schwarber, come up empty-handed and say, I guess we're done with free agency, actually.
Yeah, that's
Um,
maddening if that's in fact the case. And it sounded like it. I
yeah.
mean, they didn't come out and say that, but they kind of did.
Well, Kralls came out and said enough to make me believe that they're at best going to spend what they spent last year, but how much do you already have
Right.
locked up in how much you already have locked up in Jaime Candelario because he was cut and baseball guarantees all contracts. I just don't know what you're going to see to make this team any better right now than what they are because you don't have the veteran leadership. You are continuing to go um, digging in the old DVD bin at Walmart to see if you can find an oldie but a goodie. And what are we doing?
It's unfortunate. It's going to be what they had last year, and you would think, you make the postseason. The next step is to get better. They've got to get better, and I don't know if they're going to make the move to get better. It doesn't sound like it, but they got to do something. They can't
There were
stand pat. They can't.
there were not a lot of coaching changes made in this offseason. There was not really been much personnel changes as of yet to this roster, and I don't know. Obviously, you hope that everybody continues to progress in their careers and take steps forward, but you can't just hope that the entire roster does enough to get you
No,
where you want to be.
they got to trade. They got to make a couple trades. Um, Bring a couple people in. I don't know that there was, the talk about the Brandon Lowe thing. I mean, that's an improvement. He had 31 homers.
Sure.
You know,
Ketel
um,
Marte, he's
that
been
would be,
another
yeah,
guy.
someone like that. That would help. Is that going to put them over the top? No, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And, they're going to be banking on a couple guys staying healthy next year, like Ellie, and maybe giving them what he can give when he's at the top of his game, which is really, really good. But they've got to get him right. But
If Matt McLean can get right, that's almost a jolt that
Well,
you
that would
had.
be great. He was a massive disappointment, and I really thought there were a couple times it seemed like he was about to break out, and then it just didn't happen. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that shoulder was still bothering him, but it shouldn't be this year. And if it is,
No,
they should have done more work in the offseason on it. But there's no excuse for that. I can't believe that guy showed really at every level since they drafted him in the first round. Each minor league level he was at, he excelled at. I mean, he got to the majors in a hurry and for good reason. And when he got to the majors, he played well.
you obviously hope that Spencer Steer continues to show you what he showed you 2 years ago instead of last year as well. I think that shoulder was bothering him last year, but
Yeah, he wasn't right all year.
he had an entire offseason for it to get better, and it didn't. So
Right.
I don't know. That's where I keep going back to Hunter Green and why he continues to go outside of the Reds organization to find second opinions. I don't blame him.
Well, yeah, I don't blame him either, given the track record.
Anyway,
There is good news for the Reds, though. Did you see their 4 Hall of Famers?
I
I guess
did.
they do the
Aaron
inductions not this season, but the following in 26.
Aaron Harang,
Yep.
Brandon Phillips, who's
Yep.
did you know his wife is a WWE superstar?
No.
Yeah, his wife's name is Jade Cargill. She's currently one of the women's champions.
That's hilarious. I did not know that.
So every now and again, you'll see Brandon Phillips there ringside. Kind of
It's hilarious. I didn't know that.
The other 2 additions, though, to the Hall of Fame were I'm drawing
Sweet
blanks.
Lou.
Yeah, Lou Piniella. That's a fun one. His
And
speech should
Reggie
be
Sanders.
epic. And Reggie Sanders.
Almost got his 30-30 season in 95. He and I used to talk about that all the time, how badly he wanted to be a 30-30 guy, 30 steals, 30 homers.
Yeah.
He came close a couple times. 95 was the closest he came. And then, boy, I'm not even going to bring up the 95 playoffs. Let's just pretend I didn't go there for Reggie, because that was not his finest Reds moment.
Just fun to see the orangutan back.
He was a pleasure to deal with. I love that guy. He was a lot of fun. And he didn't get on base much, but if he ever did, when pitchers had to hit, he was just the absolute worst hitter at the plate ever, I think. I ever saw a guy with a bat in his hands at the plate. And then if he ever got on base, it was fun to watch him run. He had to score from first or second one time, and oh my God. Yeah. I thought they were going to have to hook him up to oxygen.
Who has the more entertaining speech, Brandon Phillips or Lou Piniella?
Well, that's a very good question. I just, I'll tell you what, in his prime, Lou would do it like nobody. So I hope Lou's able to do it, because if he can bring it like he could, he's boy, that's a funny dude. You know, when he threw that base, he was really upset with himself when he left the field and thought he made a big ass out of himself. He had no idea this was going to be like an iconic Reds moment. He's like, I just made an ass out of myself.
Iconic baseball moment. They're like, it's gone down in baseball lore
ever. I mean, that thing was and everyone else was laughing, going, that was awesome, Lou. And I guess he was like mad at himself. He thought he made such an ass of himself, but that was the greatest thing ever. I almost knocked myself up. I jumped so high, and I hit a door frame with my head and almost knocked myself out when he did that. That's the greatest thing I've ever seen. And I took this leap in a door frame, and I hit my head, and it's like I'm seeing stars, but I was still laughing. God, that was funny.
Well, I don't have anything FC Cincinnati, as they're still in the off season. They're not really doing anything.
Their GM was a little sore today about the season, which is good to see.
I missed that. Whoa. Anything else you got on that?
He seemed a little PO'd about the whole thing, and the way they played, obviously, in that conference semifinal. And then he said something to the effect that he felt like TQL wasn't as electric, that it got stale, the atmosphere, and he thinks they got to do some things to get the fans back into it a little bit.
Well, we'll see what that looks like.
Well, I'm glad they're not resting on a semifinal appearance in the conference semifinals. I'm glad they're thinking bigger.
And they tried to do that at the end of the season. We saw that with them making some moves that they did, particularly with Brenner. So we'll see what next season looks like. I imagine they're still going to continue to make moves, but you just wish that the teams that you grew up watching would also do the same thing.
It tests your patience, man. It tests your patience, but something good will happen here soon. Something good will happen.
Sure.
Yeah, well, maybe the Bengals will be able to hit on a couple free agents, get some things right on that defense. I don't think Trey's going to be back, but it's a bad run. I wish I had better news.
What you got on local high school basketball, George?
It's very early, but some teams are out of the gates pretty quickly. Mason's one of them. Lakota West. Oak Hills is playing defense. Like, I don't know what's going on there. I'm going to have to go check a game out. They must be playing stall ball or something, because they got some low-scoring defensive numbers. And your suspects in the GCL, LaSalle and Moeller, both undefeated. McNick, Winton Woods, Milford, Taft, Wyoming, they're all off to pretty impressive starts, but it's very early. Holiday tournaments are coming up, things of that nature. And then, they'll get into, although there are conference games have already been played, but they get heavy duty into that stretch run of the tournament right after the holidays, where, by mid-February, they're getting ready for tournament play. And let's see, in Kentucky, Covcath looking like Covcath again early on. Holy Cross is doing some really impressive things early too. Beechwood, Highlands, Newport, they're all undefeated and looking pretty strong, but it's early.
All right. Well, I am over this week of Cincinnati sports. I don't want to talk about
what could possibly happen that'll give us something good to talk about next week? I'm not sure.
Just win. Winning solves everything.
Yeah, it does.
Just go win.
We'll see if the Bengals can play better in Miami this week.
Don't hold your breath.
Burrow will play, though.
Yeah, well, he's got some work to do.
Yep.
That's going to wrap things up here on George in the Jungle. Thanks, as always, to Cincy Light for sponsoring the studios. Thanks to Remington Tavern for sponsoring the show. Remington Tavern can be found at 8892 Glendale Milford Road, 45140, where they have their daily happy hour from 3 to 7 p.m., $5 bourbon whiskey Wednesdays, bottle cap bonanza Thursdays from 7 to 9 p.m. Check them out on Instagram at RemyTavCincy or follow them on Facebook. But for George Vogel, I'm Aaron Smith. We'll be back here next Tuesday at 9 o'clock p.m. to talk all of your Cincinnati sports.
Thank you, Aaron.